Hi, I'm Zoe Lyons. Welcome to the Sarah O'Connell Show.
Welcome to the Sarah O'Connell Show.
So, welcome to the Sarah O'Connell Show. It's a complete delight to have you here backstage in this wherever we are.
It's a technical college somewhere on the outskirts of Waterlooville.
It's very true. Now, we first met, as most people do, in a planetarium many days ago.
Yeah, it's where I like to make my first encounters. You know, amongst the stars, literally amongst the stars. It was my first experience of a planetarium.
And a rainbow-coloured planetarium as well. The ceiling was very...
Yeah, it was very on trend with its equality lighting. Yeah,
wasn't it? Everyone was equally lit.
Yeah, everybody was equally lit in a rainbow of inclusion.
It was magical. So, let's go right the way back to when you were born.
Right.
It's going to be a very long interview.
Yeah.
So you, as a child, you were born, as a baby.
Born as a child, it's just a lot more comfortable for all the mothers involved if you give birth to a child as opposed to a fully grown adult.
Absolutely, highly recommended. Safety tips as well you get in the show, comedy and safety. So you were born in Wales, I believe.
Yes.
And then you moved to you went to school in Ireland. You've been to Scotland. You travelled everywhere. What was that like growing up as a kid?
Well, my early years in Ireland were great because we lived in rural Ireland, and I had cousins who had a farm, and there was a lot of running around kicking cowpats. So quite happy. Then we moved from Ireland to Surrey, and from Surrey to Glasgow. So I think that was probably the hardest move because it was at that age where kids are perhaps a little crueler. And it was a little harder to fit in, so I think it gave me that feeling of what it's like to be an outsider. Okay. Yeah.
But it's difficult, isn't it? If you grow up in the same town, you've got the same friends and you go to the same schools. But if you move around a lot, then you're always the new person.
You're always a new person. Yeah, and I find people who've lived in the same place all their lives really weird. Like, I find that idea really strange, and that you wouldn't actually want to go out and explore and have a little look-see. Yeah.
Go to a town that's got a cinema in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or a different sort of supermarket. Yeah, explore the variety.
As opposed to a town that's just got a post office that's open for a few hours on a Tuesday and it sells everything.
Well, yeah, my mate lives in a little village like that.
Name dropping?
Do you live in a little village like that?
No.
My mate lives in a little village like that. And I stayed there recently. I went, should I go and get some bread from the shop? She went, yeah, go get some bread from the shop. So I went to the shop and I went, you got any bread? And she went, no, we've sold the bread. I was like, right, they had one bread. And that was pinched already.
So the job is done.
That was it. It's done. We're out of bread till tomorrow. No bread till tomorrow. It's like, Christ, I couldn't live here. I would go crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. So then when you went to college and things, you studied acting.
I did go to university. And then after that, I went to drama school. Oh. Yeah, so there was a bit of a gap in between. Okay. Yeah, but I did do quite a lot of prancing about on stage at university as well. I usually just played the sort of club-footed maid. That was really my casting. Yeah, shuffling club-footed maid. Yeah.
So did you find that you got typecast? Or was that just a role that you naturally gravitated to?
Into that, yeah. I mean, awkward walker and very good in the service industry, so I was combining both of my skills. Yeah.
It's good to have more than one though. If you get bored of one, you've got the other one to fall back on.
I could get rid of the maid thing and just be club-footed. Yeah. So
just walk around in a circle.
Yeah, that's it.
Perfect. And so tell me how you went from acting, being an aspiring actor, I guess, to comedy.
I quickly realised that I wasn't going to be any good at acting, and there wasn't that much call for club-footed maids. So I realised as well that you're very much at the beck and call of other people's decision making. If you're an aspiring actor, it's somebody else chooses to put your face somewhere, and I thought, God, it just wasn't going to happen for me. And then I realised, actually, if you do comedy, you can do it yourself, can't you? You can just make something and say it and not be dependent on anybody else. So that's why I did it.
Do you remember your first sort of gig on stage? What was it like?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was terrifying. Yeah, it was absolutely terrifying, but elating as well at the same time. There was a feeling of absolute elation after I'd done it. I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do forever. It was that moment where I just went, yes, this. And I had quite a lot of friends in the audience. So I had sort of, I think, looking back now, a very disproportionately positive response to the shtick that I was spieling out. So thank God they came, because otherwise I'd have probably died on my arse and never done it again. So it was just the confidence of having friends in the room that I went, oh, I can do this.
So you did very well very quickly. You I think your second show won the best joke at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Was it the second show? It might have been the second show. Yes.
In 2008.
Yes, well remembered. Yes, yeah.
I read it hours ago.
Yeah. I wrote it years ago. So yeah. So no, yeah, it was. I think it's taken me a long, long time to learn how to be a comedian, though. I think there's bits were in place, but other bits really weren't. Yeah, really, really weren't. I think it takes quite a while to get all the bits aligned.
And so have you got any gigs that stand out as being particularly good that you really enjoyed, or ones that went wrong for reasons you weren't expecting?
Oh, I have died so hard in so many places and cried all the way home. But every comedian has. Sometimes you turn up and you just go, you walk into a room and you go, oh no. It's like a catalogue of disasters awaiting you. I once got booked for a women's night at a rugby club. And actually, the way they'd sold it to me, they went, "It's a ladies' rugby club," and I thought, "Oh, all right, I'll be able to work with something in that. There'll be something I recognise there. That'll be okay." Wasn't that? It was a ladies' night at a regular rugby club, and I was on after the male stripper. And they put us in the same changing room, and he didn't have an awful lot to change into, I'll be honest. I died so convincingly that night. The microphone kept cutting out. They hated me because I wasn't filth. I wasn't what they wanted.
You had clothes on and they'd just seen a naked person. Where'd you go for?
And I was just this awkward lesbian talking to them in a rugby club in the middle of Essex, in my mind going, this is a really misbooking. And when the man paid me, he paid me with such anger. I've never been so angrily paid in my life. I got quite a lot of money. I got quite a lot of money for it, and every tenner, he just ripped out, looking me in the eye, and like I'd robbed it. I had robbed him because it was absolute daylight robbery. Because what I had done there wasn't worth the wonga.
So your hour of rugby-based jokes didn't go down too well?
Absolutely nothing that we connected with in any way, shape or form. But you learn from things like that. Yeah. When you're starting out, you do everything because you're skint and you're hungry and you want to do stuff. And then the lovely thing is learning to be offered a gig, run it through your head and go, oh God, no, that'd be horrific. Oh God, no, that'd be awful. And then say no. Yeah.
So, can you tell me a bit about your writing process? Your comedy, I guess, is inspired a lot by your life and what's currently going on and all that kind of thing. Tell me, do you sit down and consciously write jokes, or is it just about your day-to-day life?
I only do that if I'm going to Edinburgh and I'm trying to write an hour-long show. Right. And actually, it's not the jokes that I'm writing, it's the sort of segue bits in between that need writing. The jokes kind of occur, and I do a gig every month in Brighton, and I write a lot of stuff on stage and make stuff up as I'm going along because it's quite a regular audience. So
they eat a lot of fibre.
Yeah, they eat a lot. Well done, so you've brought your own jokes in this one.
That was pre-planned. I needed to work it in somehow.
That's lovely. It's worked out well for you this evening. I had my intro, and you've had your Viper joke. We're nailing it. So yeah, I work stuff out on stage a lot. And a lot of stuff's just stuck on post-it notes, stuck all over the place. That was a firework in the background. Yeah, very seasonal.
It's an explosive interview.
Absolutely.
So, what makes you laugh? At the moment, which are the comedians that excite you? Which comedy programs do you watch?
That's such a hard one to answer. What makes me laugh? Do you know, I think your ability to laugh slowly dies as you do this job. It just sort of slowly curls up at the edges and becomes leathery and hard.
I'm devoid of laughter now.
I'm devoid of laughter. I love being surprised. I love seeing somebody that I haven't seen before get up on stage, and you make prejudgments. If you've been with them in the green room, and you go, oh, hang on, this isn't going to go well, and they go out there and they're wholly original or come at something from a completely different angle. Then it's just really nice to be surprised. Yeah. Really nice to be surprised. I like really stupid things. I like proper slapstick. Sometimes really makes me laugh. Really makes me laugh. Clowning makes me laugh. There's a theatre group called Spy Monkey who do incredible bits of theatre, and they are such good comedic actors, and I have literally lost my shit watching them. I've got to, when you're a kid and you get to that giggle point, and then there's no coming back from it, and it so rarely happens but it so rarely happens as an adult, and it's such a delicious thing. And I remember seeing a show they did, and it was just the most stupid piece of farce, and I lost it. I lost it in Brighton Theatre Royal for about 20 minutes. It was lovely. There was snot involved and everything. And that's great, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, I've seen shows before where I've found it, so not everything in it's funny, but I've got to the point where it's just some things really sort of tickled me, and then I'm almost hoping for the interval because I need to recompose myself.
Yeah. It's just really nice to be properly tickled. Yeah. Absolutely.
So in 2001 you were on Survivor.
I was.
You were, and you were in there for 34 days.
Yeah.
I guess I was counting, and you were bitten by sea snakes.
Well, no, I was bitten by a moray eel, but initially we thought it was a sea snake. So for 15 minutes I thought I was going to die. And
spoiler alert, she didn't.
I didn't. I made it, but that was quite an interesting 15 minutes. Yeah, it was. We couldn't see what it was that had bitten me, but it left 2 perfectly formed fang marks in my wrist. There was blood coming down here, and for about 15 minutes I thought I was going to die. And it was really interesting because I had 2 doctors there, and neither of them knew what to do in a snake bite incident. And one was going to put it above your heart, and the other was going to put it below your heart. So I spent 10 minutes doing this. Effectively, if I had been bitten, just pumping venom around my body like an old well arm. I've learned since, because I've Googled it, below your heart. If you're ever bitten by a sea snake,
don't start doing intensive cardio.
Don't Zumba it. No, don't Zumba it.
And if you have a snake bite that's just cider and whatever, the alcoholic version, you don't need to do that at all.
You don't need to do that at all. Although after about 6 or 7, you probably will be doing that involuntary.
It is involuntary. You've also been featured in the Independent Pink List as iconic gay and lesbian people.
Yes, I appeared and then disappeared very quickly. I think it was in the 90s somewhere, in the numbers wise. I appeared one year, I think, and then just the next year, never made a second appearance. I haven't moved up the hit parade. No.
So, but you still do a lot of stuff with Stonewall and things like that. Do you your comedy's not just about that kind of stuff, but do you feel a responsibility to sort of address things going on in the community and all that kind of stuff?
No. Quite no. No responsibility. No. I think the only thing that I do is just be present and be visible, and just by being a gay woman who just is a gay woman and just gets on with it. That's the only way I've ever approached it. But and I think that's the best thing you can do, just so that people can go, oh look, there's somebody doing something, and she happens to be gay, but she doesn't keep mentioning it, or it doesn't have to define her, or because that becomes very laborious and very pointless. People think you live in a gay house with a gay car and a gay dog, and it's like, it's not. I think just simply by being, and just being present, hopefully, I live in a very pleasant bubble of Bohemian Brighton. Where it's got a huge gay population, it's very accepting, it's very diverse, it's very tolerant. I'm very aware that there are people, even still in the UK, that live in places that just aren't like that. So, and are maybe struggling with themselves and struggling with how it'll be if they do come out. So I think simply by just seeing people present is important.
No more defines you than your eye colour, does it? It's just it's a detail about you, but you're a comedian.
Yeah, exactly that. But when I first started, I was the female comedian, then the female gay comedian. Now you're always labelled, and you're like, Jesus, I don't even talk about being a woman that much on stage. People just like they like to know what they're looking at and dealing with, and they're like, oh, it's okay,
Yeah. Like to compartmentalise everything.
Exactly. I just like to be.
Exactly. So, my next question is that you have been on a lot of TV shows, stuff like The Right Stuff and Mock the Week, and lots of great comedy shows as well. Is there any that's been your favourite, and is there anything that you'd like to do? What are your aspirations at this point?
I would like to do a lot more television because you get really good sandwiches. And what would I like to do at this point? I don't know. I'm quite content. I am. If I could, right, my big love is travel. If I could do something where I could travel and combine it with the comedy, that would be my ultimate thing. I love travelling. I love it. But it's kind of been done, and I'm not a big enough. I haven't got a big enough profile to sort of carry something that would be. It's been done by much bigger comedians than me and much bigger personalities than me. But that would be my ideal thing. Maybe just a little program on Discovery or something. Yeah. I'd love that.
So maybe something where you go to a different town and you tell people about it, then it cuts to you on stage and shows a bit of that kind of stuff, maybe?
Yeah, we could even skip the comedy, I could just travel. That's
a shooting or popcorn or possibly fireworks.
Fibre diet kicking in. I do apologise. The intolerance is unbearable.
We are up to our waists in it.
Yeah. This is pre-show nerves.
It is. In Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where they go into the Cheerios, it's like that, but with Cocoa Pops.
Lovely. I'd love it if you went out there with just a massive bowl of popcorn in the car park. Huge bowl of popcorn, the size of footballs. Yeah. Beautiful.
It's a dare that got out of hand.
Yes, exactly.
Which brings me very nicely on to your new show, Little Misfit.
Yes, well, I've actually just finished touring that, so that's it's gone to bed. She's gone to bed, Little Misfit. So I now have to start with a new piece of paper and start again. And
when will your next one be ready? Will it be for Ed Fringe next year?
I'll say Edinburgh, but
and it's ready.
Hopefully August.
Of any year.
It'll be in some sort of shape by August. There'll be bits, be loosely held together, very much like that person's bowels outside. So finally, have you got any messages for your fans around the world and people watching the Sarah O'Connell show on this? It could be any night of the year, I don't want to date it seasonally, but yeah. I think if you love comedy and you appreciate comedy, go at least once a year to an actual comedy club.
It sounds like a dietary advice again.
Yeah, do go at least once a year. Make sure you go and actually see Love. And go and see people that you haven't seen on telly, because there's so much out there. And just take a punt on people. Yeah, surprise yourself.
It's very good advice. So Zoe, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Sarah O'Connell show today. Thank you.
You got the fireworks sorted for me. I did put that on the rider, and you're the first person to have to actually read it to the bottom. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm going to exit this interview on a Catherine wheel. It'll be absolutely super. I shouldn't I? We'll rustle one up.
You will. So thank you very much for watching. Be sure to share, subscribe, give the video a big thumbs up, and I'll see you all again soon for another episode of the Sarah O'Connell Show. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I enjoyed that.
That was fun.